to not share by lawyers.
Okay, I just want to talk about how it's so ironic of her to be like, I don't think this is the right space when, like, you know, she kind of did what she did to James Charles. And don't get me wrong, he did his own dues. But when it comes to him and the whole Tati Westbrook situation, there's a lot of weirdness going on there. Hi, Bookies. So, as we can see, we got Miss Tati Westbrook, the third, twice removed, whatever the hell, I don't know. I saw this pop up, and I am not trying to kick anybody's sobriety. That's not the joke, but I don't understand. This just seems really out of left pocket and left field, and yeah, so I figured we could watch it together, because I'm just genuinely confused. So the way she did it, went about it, and the whole thing, yucky, icky, and it just wasn't good. Amongst another problems, I just think it's crazy of her to just like straight up be like outing people in a certain way, but she can't come on here and tell her own truth, which is kind of interesting. So, you know,
therapists, people in my life that mean really well and they have good intentions, they're like, hey, maybe you should keep this private because I don't think people are ready for your story just yet. But in the back of my mind, I always felt that there would come a day where I could share my story and that it might help someone. And so here we are, I am doing this. Okay. There is no putting this information back in hiding. And since the podcast with Michelle has gone up, I figure I may as well just talk about it.
I gotta let the girlies know
hope
I
for the
was
best.
getting high.
I want to start by saying that my choice to not drink or use drugs or smoke weed is a non-negotiable for me. Personally, it's life or death. It almost took my life several times. This has been the biggest battle. And anyone that suffers with addiction is going through it. Just know you are incredible. You have the strength to overcome it. I hope that I can be a living, breathing, walking example that it can be done. And that's why I'm motivated to share more of the nitty gritty and kind of the dirty side of my story, because it's not glamorous, it's not cute. And I have felt a ton of shame over this issue. I do want to do a Q&A moving forward. I feel like you guys will have specific questions for me. I am filming this right before Michelle's podcast goes up, so I have no idea how this is about to be received. I'm a little nervous, to be honest, but I thought I would film this video and just take a little bit more time. Ugh, she's breathing heavy. Oh my gosh. And share with you my story. No one knows that I have been to...
Okay, babe, we're almost 3 minutes in. We gotta get to the point because we've just, like, we've said we've been on Michelle Phan's podcast, like, for a minute now.
Rehab. No one knows that prior to rehab, I overdosed. No one knows that part of my journey or my story. I've kept that completely hidden.
What the hell?
And you're probably asking, why? Like, why did you keep that hidden? Don't be ashamed of yourself, because a lot of people want to tell you how to feel online. That seems to be a trend.
That's definitely part of it.
A lot of times it can come from a really good place and it's well intended. But back when I first started YouTube, I was still really embarrassed about the fact that I didn't drink. I was sober for about a year and then messed up. Was sober again for 5 years, messed up again. Damn. Didn't see that one coming. And this was during a time when I was still making 5 videos a week. It was a very short drop off the wagon, if you will. Like, it was a very short relapse. It was like touch that hot stove. Oh, nope, I do have a problem. In my mind, I made the issue of me not drinking not a drinking issue. I kind of got to this point where I was like, I have money now and I'm successful. And look, everyone has fun doing this. And
okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Hasn't she like always had money or whatever? I could have sworn that she's always had money, but okay.
Maybe I'm more mature and grown up and I can handle this. And this is what
it's not like she couldn't have been like,
and I was really depressed before.
You know what I mean?
So like maybe I've overcome this. And I fell off the wagon like that. Like it just came back with a vengeance, and it was like, ooh, life or death. Like, let's choose, let's make a quick choice here. It was a very short period of time. Thank God. And I was back on the sober path pretty quickly, and I have been for the 8.5 years since. I am so sick of pretending to be something that I'm not. And
like
I'm ready to just say, hey, I'm not perfect. Far from it. I have big struggles, and I have found a way to overcome a lot of them. And does it mean that every day is like the best ever and that I never have days where I'm down and I struggle still?
Speed this up.
But I've made a choice to not use substance because I know it can take me out real quick. If you struggle with alcohol, it's everywhere. The grocery store, you're on a plane, driving down the street, billboards, and the sides of buses. And it's just like, if you're upset, drink. If you're celebrating, drink. Just like wild how much focus we put on drinking. It's not healthy for you, whether you have an addictive personality or not. You're gonna feel like crap the next day. It can really rob you of your energy, age you. It does all these crazy things that not a lot of people really want to talk about. But it's continued to be a thing that I've had to kind of like dodge the bullets along the way and kind of surrender to the fact that this is truly not for me. So I do not drink. I do not smoke. I do not smoke weed. I am absolutely through and through sober as they come. I might be addicted to makeup though. As I'm looking behind me, this looks like a lot of chaos, and I get it. You know, my advice, honestly, like in the middle before going into a little more of my story, sometimes when you give up something.
I don't mean to be an asshole, but just the way she just comes off is just like, I'm addicted to makeup. My drug is concealer. My drug is coursing through my veins, and it's makeup. I'm not trying to make light of anything that she's experienced, but I don't know. Sometimes just the way, like, I definitely feel like it's important to understand the way you come off with certain things, because then you could be doing shit like this and you're trying to tell like a sober story. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but she seems like it is like, what do you call it, like she struggles with alcohol, very valid, but she's kind of like portraying this as it's something deeper or whatever. I could be totally wrong. I'm a dumbass in that way, but I don't know. I just feel like this didn't need, because we're only a couple minutes in, this didn't need the YouTube video that it survives, but we're only 6 minutes in, and I could probably be putting my foot in my mouth like classically as per usual, but I don't know. Something's just giving me that vibe so far.
That provides you with so much pleasure and escapism, makes you feel good. The best thing you can do is pivot and find something else to be fascinated with that makes you feel good. Just make sure it's in a way that's healthy, that's not damaging, that couldn't potentially kill you or other people.
Well, let's be super straight up. You can be addicted to makeup and it can still become a problem. Like, I love makeup as much as the next person, but it can become an issue, like the money, all this other bullshit. Like, you could be putting certain like things above priorities when it comes to like getting that new mascara. Let's be for real. Let's be so for real.
I think that's kind of where the real intensity with loving makeup started. To back that up a little more, I've always loved makeup. I have worked jobs doing makeup. I wanted to be a celebrity makeup artist. So I've always been in the beauty game, but really taking focus and like building this career, I feel like that's part of my own superpower, is being able to go all in on something that I derive joy from and never know how to get enough. So like my joke with people in my life, I'm like, I don't know how to quit. Like, I don't know how to quit something that's good for me. I will go all in. And if you struggle with addiction, that right there is your gold. That is your superpower. You will not be distracted the same way much of society is. You will have it in you to go that extra mile, to learn more, be more detailed, to really just push through. You know how, once you've mastered the art of stopping some type of substance, drinking, what have you, you've mastered the art of delaying pleasure. And that is a huge, huge foundation to building any business, you know, long-term success. The ability to say, I'm not going to go to that fun event and get buck wild right now because I've got to work and I've got to pour into what I'm creating. And so for me, that's...
Call me nuts, but that should be like what you're doing in general. I don't... It seems like someone's had a problem, and like, from what I'm gathering from the 6-minute interval, it just seems like she had a hard time of putting like certain priorities above other ones, and like understanding that what the fuck am I trying to say? That like, hey, maybe like you might have a limit and you might not know what that limit is, or maybe you do and you still choose to go over it. Either way, equally a problem. And then to do that at social settings and to kind of like put your priorities on the back burner, like if you know you got to do a bunch of stuff, that's kind of super reckless. But you know, and let's be real, she makes like 90,000 QVC like live TikToks or whatever the hell like you want to call them a day, so you don't want to be too sloshed for that, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying it to be disrespectful, it's just, you know, that's just kind of how like I'm taking it from my, you know, perspective and stuff like that. And I only say that as someone who has been like in a family that has struggled with severe, like, bad addiction from, like, alcohol to everything you can think of. Like, not that it's like, not that one's more equally or crazier than the other, but I don't know. She just always gives me high and mighty, and there's just something about that. Tell me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I don't know. That's just the vibe I'm getting, and I don't know.
That's how I was able to go 5 days a week on my channel for 5 years, is because I was all in. I used that part of my brain to my advantage instead of allowing it to completely obliterate me. You guys are like, tell us about rehab. People always want to know. They're like, the rehab part. What was that like? How did that go down? What was that all about? I partied pretty hard in my 20s, nothing out of control, but when I hit my rock bottom, it happened fast. Like, it all of a sudden one day became this thing where I was drinking right when I got up in the morning. I noticed that I started hiding my drinking, like I was putting vodka in plastic bottles, taking it to the movies, like, oh, I'm saving money. But the reality is I wanted a certain amount, so that's what I would do. And I had all these different things that were changing in kind of a short 3-month period before I ended up going to rehab. My life had completely fallen apart. So let me start there. I was kind of a social partying drinker, had fun, whatever, a few wild nights here or there, and then everything completely collapsed out under me. I lost my job, didn't have anything in my bank account. I think I was like negative $35. And I was like, I'm gonna lose everything. I had to move back home with my mom. My fiance had dumped me. I felt like I had no options for a career. I didn't have anything going, and I was on top of it deeply depressed. So depressed. I could not function in my day-to-day without alcohol to numb that void, to numb that pain. I just did not like being alive. If I'm being honest, I hated my life. I would wake up and I'd be like, I hate being here. Had some childhood trauma to sort out on top of it. Most of us do. And it just kind of all came to this like point where my drinking escalated, and I just didn't care. Like, I just kind of didn't care anymore. I was like, this is what I do to feel good, and I just kind of don't care. Like, therapy didn't work. Antidepressants didn't work. Like, nothing worked. Going to church didn't work. Which literally, I have so many stories I could tell you guys that are so crazy. Like, I woke up one morning, I got full-blown loaded and walked to church and went to worship and listened to a sermon, so drunk, begging God to relieve me of this, that the pain of this life had just gotten...
Damn, that's honestly really crazy. Holy shit. Damn, Tati was getting down. Fuck.
To be like way too much. Like, it just felt like I was in chronic pain, emotionally and even physically, all of the time. Randomly one day, just... If the zero fucks given could have been escalated, somehow they were, and I drank with more force and ended up in the hospital, convinced everybody that I'm fine. It was a wild night. It was fine. No, I didn't mean to do that. Absolutely not. Went home, and the next day I was like, well, clearly I'm going to need to do more. And this is like the shame that...
Oh.
This is the part of the story. Oof. I want to share the dirtier parts of my story because I know there's someone watching who needs to hear this, that needs to hear that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that you can change, and you can go through just the yuckiest, most shameful things and still change.
Absolutely.
So that second night, went even harder. I should have died. There is no reason that I should be here on earth with how much alcohol I consumed. My mom found me. Ambulance was called. I had pissed myself, vomited on myself, like they thought I was dead, and went to the hospital. They don't know how there was no damage done to my body. I survived and ultimately checked myself into rehab. And here's the beautiful part of my story. At rehab, when I was getting the help that I so desperately needed, I was getting out of that horrifying pain and the inability to set down something that was killing me. I found the YouTube beauty community.
Oh my God, genuinely, that's so fucking terrible. I can't imagine how hard that is to struggle with like an alcohol addiction like that. And also at the same time, I don't know why she tries to be like on a high horse pedestal with certain stuff when she's like, when she can get down to that level. I have this video on like certain speed. She talks so slow. I genuinely don't understand why she does. But yeah, that's really fucking terrible. Thank goodness she's okay, but still doesn't, excuse certain behaviors. But yeah, that's wild. I didn't think Tati had it in her.
And in the evenings when we were allowed to use a computer, I had like a small little teeny tiny computer that was smaller than an iPad. I still have it. I don't know how to crack into it. And if I could, it would be interesting because I would journal on there all that I was going through, my hopes and dreams and wishes. And I would watch the beauty community, Michelle Phan specifically, and that's why that interview was so absolutely important for me to say yes to, and I flew to LA and I was so excited. So I'd watch her videos and I would make notes of different products I wanted to try, and I would wake up in the morning at rehab and I would do my makeup, and I was healing. For the first time in a really, really long time, I was healing. My goal was to get out of rehab, stay sober, buy a camera, and start my own channel, and long story short, I eventually did. and I got really good at it. It didn't happen right away, but with persistence, things started improving. And again, there's that magic within someone with an addictive personality. Just pivot it, get out of that pain. You can. It's gonna.
Well, let's be real. You're not like some wholesome creator that like got their start from rags to riches. You definitely had some assistance, babe. Let's be super honest. But yeah, damn.
Be painful, but you can do it. And that's my story. I've always wanted to share. And it's been tempting to, especially when I've been on panels and someone will ask, why did you start your YouTube channel? There's always this like micro expression of mine where I go back and I'm like in that rehab facility and I'm just hanging on for dear life. I so often wanted to share, but I wasn't ready. It didn't feel right. Even at the Kiwi launch party, you hear me speaking about Michelle and I'm like, I think I say something like, you helped me so much. Like, and I almost start crying and like, I didn't tell her then.
Okay, we're getting to it. I also had like my number one hero here who I watched before I started any of this. It helped me in a really dark time of my life. I love you so much, Michelle.
So when she invited me on her podcast and I sat down, she didn't know that I was going to drop this information.
They go way back
hey,
like car seats, yo.
With all the online drama and litigation. And she asked me, like, tell me about why you started your YouTube channel. And I was like, oh man, here we go. If this moment is going to happen, it's going to happen right here with the woman that unknowingly helped me in the early stages of my recovery right after I had tasted death. What a cool moment. And I'm so grateful to her. And so sorry, Michelle, that I just dropped that on you without telling you in advance. Because usually if there's some kind of heavy topic like that and you're going on a podcast, you give the host a little more of a heads up. And I didn't. I was undecided if I was going to do it or not. And when I was there in the moment, I was like, I have to. This is a lot to digest. Even for me, I don't talk about my story in detail this much anymore on the regular. It's something that happened in my past. It greatly shaped me into who I am today. I'm really proud of my recovery. And like I said in the podcast with Michelle, something that I'm most proud of is that during all of the craziness of almost divorcing James and being offline and all the litigation and losing Tati Beauty and, and even now recently having to part ways with, I've stayed sober. And
is she talking about like sugar bear hair and stuff?
I'm really, really grateful. So why did I never share? Why did I never share this online? I was afraid. Because a lot of people in my life, like in my personal life, they would downplay the fact that I had a drinking issue, and it would just always feel kind of weird. Like it would just feel like, are you embarrassed of me? Like, am I embarrassing you? I just had that taste. People are like, no. And like, people just don't know how to act. And I was like, I don't know, maybe that's in my head. Like, I don't know, people are treating me weird now that I'm sober and it's this whole thing. And
what the fuck? Who were you around that made you feel like that? I just don't feel like you should have made it this big situation in your head, because it doesn't matter what type of thing you had an addiction on. I just think that like you're just blowing it up to be like something way more intense than it is per se, you know what I mean? But yeah, those whoa.
People treat you like, oh, you're just really weak and like you have a problem and you couldn't fix it. Oh, like, and you're just like, you're wearing that scarlet letter and it just feels just like so coated in shame. And I want to like break that apart moving forward, because there's something so powerful about choosing to get sober. You are incredible if you choose that path. There's nothing shameful about it. But I let it get to me in the beginning of YouTube when I was mingling, meeting people, going to events. Like I would tell people that I was like on a cleanse, or like, I just don't drink for health reasons. I would make up all these different excuses as to why I didn't drink. And people so quickly would be like, oh yeah, okay. So anyway, I went to an event with a very powerful, at the time, president of an MCN was hosting, and we all, like a bunch of girls, we all went to have drinks at the Tropicana, and then we were going to a concert afterward, and everybody's just like chit-chatting and whatever, and I will never ever forget the heat in my body that went from my toes up to my head. I ordered a virgin mojito. The president of his company looks across the table right at me, eye contact, and says, "That's a virgin mojito?" I'm like, yeah. I'm getting kind of nervous. She's like, and this is in front of a bunch of influencers, mind you, she goes, "What are you, in AA?" And I about like melted into the ground. I said something like, no, it runs in my family. I just choose not to drink. And I felt so much shame in that moment that I decided in this industry, it is not safe for me to out myself. It is not accepted. It is dirty. This is something that I have to hide if I want to be successful. And that's really sad. You know, I've been privy to conversations where people are talking about other influencers and that they have a problem and how they would talk about those characters. And I'm like, dang, you get a front row seat to this kind of talk, and you learn to keep your personal stuff very, very private. There have been friends who are therapists. I had one girlfriend who, has her doctorate, and she was working at an addiction center, and she had no idea that I had the history that I had. And she was like, addicts are the worst. They're the worst people to walk the planet. And like, it's so pathetic hearing all of them whine and complain all day. And I just can't take it. And like, I would sit there and be like, gosh, this is how people really see this issue. And I don't know when it's going to change, but I'm going to just zip it until it does. And I don't know that it's completely changed. I just don't care anymore. So if people think that I am weak or a liability or unfun or whatever you want to come up with in your head, like, I'm finally okay with it. And another great thing that I do have going on. Biggest blessing, because I do believe with sobriety come many, many blessings. I remember someone told me that in the beginning. They're like, sobriety brings blessings. You will see, like, there will be good things that will happen in your life. And I didn't believe that at the time. Like, I remember like my first group session, they're like, what are you grateful for? And I literally was like, I don't know. I have hands. I could not find gratitude in me. I was so broken. So hearing those things in the beginning, they did help, and they were very, very true. I met James. I had my year and then relapsed and then moved back in with my mom. And I think it was a few months later that I was pretty fresh after my relapse, which like they don't recommend. But write your own story. I met James, and he gave me permission to share this, by the way. Maybe in the future he will share his own story, because his story is freaking wild. But the man has 28 years sobriety, and he has been my biggest rock as...
Okay, hold on a mo. Why the hell would you need permission from your significant other to share your sobriety story? She literally didn't say anything about him except for she met him after or whatever the fuck, you know what I mean? Like, literally nothing about it. She just met him during a timeline in her life, you know what I mean? Like, after after rehab is what she said. Sorry, I like flashbanged on that information. Huh? That's weird. That is weird. What the hell?
As far as just putting one foot in front of the other with my own sobriety journey. And I think it would have, for me, been really impossible to be with someone that partied or even drank casually, because for me, it was just such a head game, and I had to remove myself from so many of those scenarios that in like your private, intimate relationship, for me, it just wouldn't work. And I just felt like, oh gosh, I'll never find anyone. Like, I'll never find anyone. Like, this is gonna suck. My whole life will suck. And my life does not suck. I am a self-made millionaire, former addict, high school dropout. I have no education. Let's just like put that out there in the mix as well, because I want to tell you, whoever's watching this that feels like they won't find love, health, that they don't have options, that they're just out, like, hang on and push through. There is always something better available, and you might have to go through hell to get there, but I really believe you can get there. So that is my story. Oh my gosh, like, I'm gonna admit that I kind of feel like when you meet someone for the first time and you really spill and like you way overshare, like I kind of feel like that's how I'll feel going to bed tonight. But also there's so many of you that have been with me for so many years, and it has meant so much to me.
Okay, anyways, that's just... Okay. My thoughts is... It was very eye-opening to who Tati was and what her story is and how she overcame certain things. She just has a weird habit of just coming off just like very holier than thou, and I don't know why, considering, you know, some of the information she just said, but that's great. She got help, all that other jazz. I just will say, why the hell would she need permission from her significant other to spill or tell her story? I don't understand that. That's very weird to me, but yeah. Anyways, yeah. Hopefully I didn't come off too, like, ignoramus in the video, because at the end of the day, I'm not judging her. You know, I come from a family of a lot of that, you know, even had to be in foster care because of it. So I'm just judging the way she's going about this, because there's just something, I don't know, something about this whole situation is just kind of rubbing me like, you know, it's interesting to say the least. But leave your thoughts down below, and if any of you have struggled or are struggling, just know that, like, there are so many resources. You're not alone. And like Tati said, like, you're so incredible, and it's just going to take you to get through some stuff, but you just really have to put your mind to wanting that for yourself, because the first step begins with you. Everyone else can make decisions for you, but you're going to have to go through with them. You know what I'm saying? Bye, babies.
Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I say